Has this ever happened to you? You're scrolling through YouTube or Instagram, and suddenly, someone pops up, showcasing their success, their defined abs, perfect vacations, or seemingly ideal partner. Or maybe it's young prodigies excelling at something that feels out of reach. It's easy to feel like you've missed the mark on something you once desired. It's a feeling many know well, even if they don't say it out loud. Success isn't a straight line. It's not a journey without mistakes. In fact, failure is deeply human. It's what drives us to improve. That's how we learn to walk, to talk, stumbling, falling, and trying again. We're not machines. We're human. But the problem? Other people's achievements can seem so far out of reach that, instead of inspiring us, they end up demotivating us. I'll never be able to do that, we think. But here's the thing. You're only seeing the highlight reel of someone else's life. You're not seeing their struggles. Social media fuels this illusion. We're constantly bombarded with images of what looks like the perfect life. But rarely do we see what's behind that picture. In the end, what we perceive online is just fiction, like a character in a movie. Anyone can take a good picture and claim success. There are influencers who even pay $64 an hour just to rent a fake jet set for photos, pretending they're flying first class. Comparing ourselves to others is something deeply rooted in us. Psychologist Leon Festinger proposed that it's a fundamental part of how we evaluate our own worth and abilities. In the past, this kind of comparison had an evolutionary advantage. It helped with survival by allowing us to assess our standing within a group. But now, in the age of social media, this natural tendency has been amplified beyond recognition. Instead of comparing ourselves to a small circle of people, we're comparing our lives to thousands of curated, seemingly perfect ones online. And that's where the trap begins. What was once a survival tool has now become a spiral of dissatisfaction and anxiety. We measure ourselves against the highlights of others' lives, and inevitably, we come up short. This isn't just psychological, it's biological. When we compare ourselves to others, regions of the brain like the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex light up, suggesting that this process is hardwired into how we perceive ourselves. And in today's digital world, where we're constantly bombarded with the successes of others, this mechanism can leave us feeling inadequate, even defeated. There's a principle in economics known as the law of diminishing marginal utility, which essentially says that the more of something we're exposed to, the less value it holds. The same applies here. The more we're flooded with others' achievements, the less inspiring they become. Instead of motivating us, they can make us feel worse, driving home the idea that we're not enough. So here's the thing. Comparison. It's something we all do, whether we realize it or not. It's like a reflex. But here's what you have to understand. You can't feel behind until you compare yourself to others. You can't be short without someone else being tall, and you can't feel inadequate unless you're measuring yourself against another. This all comes down to the ego, a protective mechanism that plays a huge role in how we perceive ourselves. According to the yogic system, the ego activates when it senses a threat to our identity, and ironically, it often leads us to suffering in its attempt to shield us from. Let's say you want to learn a new hobby, like painting or playing music. You might be frustrated if you don't see the growth you would have expected from the get-go. The ego, suddenly, fills your mind with fears of failure and embarrassment. It keeps you in your comfort zone, avoiding that unpleasant discomfort in the short term, in order to avoid a possible failure. The ego steps in to protect you by convincing you to avoid situations where you might fail. But here's the tricky part. While it's trying to protect you, it's also limiting you. It keeps you from trying new things, from asking out that person, or even from taking that next step toward personal growth. So, how do you break free from comparison? You have to understand what's fueling it. It's not about being different or incapable. Those are excuses your mind uses to avoid the pain of rejection or failure. What you need to do is shift your focus inward. Instead of constantly comparing your path to others, start asking yourself, what have I accomplished? Where do I want to go? This isn't about using other people's lives as a metric, but seeing your own journey clearly. And when you reflect on that, something interesting happens. Gratitude doesn't automatically surface, but you begin to appreciate where you are and the steps you've taken. You start to realize that success is personal. It's not defined by anyone else's milestones. Instead, it's shaped by your own path. Sometimes that thing you thought you were falling behind in. It might be something you didn't need or even truly want in the first place. You have the ability to shape your own success story, one that resonates with who you are and where you're headed. You have to play the hand you're dealt, own your journey, and create the life that resonates with your strengths. Because in the end, it's not about who has the better hand. It's about who knows how to play their cards best. Thank you all for watching. I would love to hear your comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Until the next one.